Look, I get it. When aliens make first contact, you expect them to ask about our technology, our culture, or maybe why we spent so much time watching cat videos. What you don't expect is for them to be completely obsessed with our real estate choices. But there I was, sitting in my production office at National Geographic, editing footage of a Komodo dragon dislocating its jaw to swallow a pig whole, when Ambassador Pix of the Galactic Research Coalition waddled through my door. Picture a 7-foot-tall blue penguin wearing what looked like a spacesuit designed by IKEA, and you'll have a pretty good idea of what I was dealing with. Dave Thompson, the translator device around their neck, made them sound like a GPS having an existential crisis. We require your expertise in understanding a most puzzling human behavior pattern. I paused the footage, right as the Komodo's teeth were sinking into the pig's haunches. Sure, what's on your mind? Pix pulled out what looked like a holographic tablet, except it was probably running on quantum computing, while my ancient laptop still crashed trying to open PDF files. Our preliminary surveys show that humans deliberately avoid settling in approximately 31.7% of your planet's most habitable regions. Specifically, these areas they projected a map showing the world's major swamps, marshlands, and dense tropical regions. Well, yeah, I said, pointing to my monitor. Have you seen what lives in those places? Pix blinked all 4 of their eyes in perfect sequence. You mean the indigenous flora and fauna? Our analysis suggests these regions offer optimal conditions for settlement. Abundant water, fertile soil, consistent temperatures. And giant snakes that can crush a water buffalo to death. Pardon. I pulled up some footage from last year's World's Deadliest series. This is an anaconda. They can grow up to 30 feet long, weigh as much as your average smart car, and they don't exactly discriminate when it comes to menu choices. Pix leaned forward, their head tilting at an angle that made me wonder if their species had bones. Fascinating. And humans simply accept that these creatures control these territories. Accept it? We made like 8 movies about them. Pretty terrible ones, if I'm being honest, but the point stands. That's when Dr. Maya Rodriguez burst into my office, because apparently today was, let's all interrupt Dave's editing day. Maya was our lead field researcher, and the only person I knew who could make Kaki look intimidating. She stopped short at the sight of Pix but recovered quickly. That's Maya for you. You could probably drop her in the middle of an alien invasion, and she'd start taking notes on their tactical formation. Dave, you need to see this, she said, waving her tablet. The Galactic Research Coalition just filed a formal inquiry about Earth's inexplicable habitat distribution patterns they think we're being, and I quote, irrationally selective about prime real estate. I looked at Pix. Pix looked at me. Maya looked at both of us and slowly pieced together what she'd walked into. Oh, she said. I guess you're already handling it. Ambassador Pix, meet Dr. Maya Rodriguez. Maya, meet the reason why I'm not getting any editing done today. Pix's translator crackled. Dr. Rodriguez, perhaps you can help explain why your species abandons such promising territories to mere animals. Maya's eyes lit up with that dangerous gleam she gets right before suggesting we should get closer to something that wants to eat us. Mere animals? Have you seen what a hippopotamus can do to a boat? Or what happens when you stumble into a fer-de-lance nest? I believe I interrupted. Before Maya could start pulling up her extensive collection of wildlife attack statistics, what we need here is a practical demonstration. Ambassador, how would your coalition feel about funding a documentary? All 4 of Pix's eyes widened. You mean to document these creatures? In their natural habitat. Exactly. Show your people exactly why humans tend to build our cities away from places where everything is trying to kill us. The coalition would be most interested in such documentation, Pix said. Though surely these dangers are exaggerated for dramatic effect in your current programming. I glanced at my monitor, where the Komodo dragon had finished its meal and was now looking disturbingly content. Tell you what, why don't we start with a little field trip to the Amazon? I know this great spot where the anacondas like to hang out. Maya grinned. I'll call Lucky. Who is this Lucky? Pix asked. Carlos Mendoza, I explained. Best guide in the Amazon. We call him Lucky because he's survived being bitten by pretty much everything in the jungle. Twice. And this is admirable. On Earth? That's practically a superhero origin story. I could see the exact moment Pix started to realize that maybe, just maybe, humans weren't being irrational about our choice of living space. But they had no idea what they were in for. None of them did. The Galactic Research Coalition was about to learn why humans don't mess with swamps, and I was going to get it all on camera. The next morning, my office looked like a UN meeting had collided with a Star Trek convention. Pix had brought along their research team 3 more aliens who made me think of different aquarium creatures wearing business casual. There was Mira, who resembled a very serious jellyfish and served as their chief scientist. Kex, a squat, crab-like data analyst, and Nox, their safety officer, who looked surprisingly like a worried manatee in a safety vest. "Let me get this straight," Mira's translator warbled. "Your species just accepts that large regions of your planet are controlled by what you call murder lizards." "Komodo dragons," I corrected, "and that's just the beginning." "Maya, show them the highlight reel." Maya dimmed the lights and started our standard why you should stay in the boat presentation. "First up, hippos. Now, you might think they look cute," Maya began. The footage showed a hippopotamus casually biting an aluminum boat in half. "They are not cute," she continued. "They kill around 500 people a year, and they do it because they can. Not for food, not for territory, sometimes just because they woke up and chose violence." Nox's safety vest started blinking rapidly. "This cannot be standard behavior for an herbivorous species." "Oh, it gets better," I said. "Show them the snakes." The next clip featured a king cobra rearing up to its full height, taller than most humans. Kex made a sound like a keyboard having a panic attack. "This specimen is relatively small," Maya noted casually. "The really interesting ones are the reticulated pythons. We have footage of one that tried to eat a crocodile. Want to see who won?" "That will not be necessary," Pix said quickly. But Maya was already playing the clip. "Note the excellent camera work," I added. "The photographer only lost 2 drones getting these shots." By the time we got to the part about box jellyfish, complete with Maya's helpful explanation of what most venomous means in practical terms, Nox had activated some kind of personal force field. "And you want to take us? Were these creatures live?" Kex asked, their claws clicking nervously on their datapad. "The Amazon," I confirmed. "Home to electric eels, piranhas, poison dart frogs, and our star attraction, the green anaconda. Don't worry though, we've got lucky." Right on cue, Carlos Lucky Mendoza sauntered in. His entrance would have been more impressive if he wasn't wearing a hot pink "I survived the Amazon, and all I got was this t-shirt" shirt, but Lucky had never cared much for dramatic effect. "Dave. Maya," he called out cheerfully. "I heard we're taking some tourists to meet Senhora Ana." "Senhora Ana?" Mira asked. "The biggest anaconda we've ever tracked," Maya explained. "Lucky named her. She tried to eat my canoe last year," Lucky said proudly. "Very ambitious lady. I respect that." The aliens stared at him with what I assume was horror. It's hard to read expressions on a jellyfish. "And you survived this encounter?" Pix asked. "Oh sure," Lucky shrugged. "Only the 3rd worst thing that happened to me that week. You should hear about the angry sloth incident." "Angry sloth?" Nox's force field hummed louder. "Maybe another time," I interrupted. "Right now we need to discuss the production plan. I'm thinking 3 days in the field, full documentation of the local wildlife, focusing on why these areas remain largely uninhabited by humans. We'll need 2 camera crews, emergency evacuation protocols, and probably some really good insurance." "Insurance?" Kex clicked. "Oh yeah," Lucky nodded. "My rates don't cover acts of anaconda, or jaguar, or angry sloth." Maya pulled up a map on the screen. "I've marked all the known territories of our major predators. We'll start with the capybara grounds." "Those are the giant guinea pigs, right?" I added. "They're actually pretty chill." "And work our way up to Senhora Ana's hunting grounds. If we're lucky, we might even see her catch something." "And if we're unlucky?" Nox asked. "Then we become what she catches," Lucky said cheerfully. "But don't worry, I haven't lost a client in almost 6 months." The research team huddled together, having what appeared to be an intense discussion in their native language. Their translators were off, but I caught what sounded like the alien equivalent of, "Are they insane?" at least 3 times. Finally, Pix turned back to us. "The Coalition approves this documentary expedition. However, we have one condition." "Name it," I said. "We want to understand why your species considers these regions uninhabitable, yet individuals like yourselves voluntarily enter them. It seems contradictory." Maya, Lucky, and I exchanged glances. "That's easy," Lucky grinned. "We get paid to do it." Also, Maya added, someone has to document these creatures so people know why not to build condos in their territory. Plus, I concluded, it makes for great television. Speaking of which, we're going to need you all to sign some release forms, and maybe update your wills. Wills. Standard procedure, Lucky assured them. Now, who wants to hear about the angry sloth? The looks on their faces told me this documentary was going to be ratings gold, assuming we all survived filming it. There are certain things you expect to hear during a pre-expedition safety briefing. Don't touch anything colorful as standard. Stay away from anything with more teeth than you is always solid advice. What you don't expect is to hear an alien safety officer trying to apply galactic workplace regulations to the Amazon rainforest. According to Coalition Safety Protocol 7249B, Knox announced, consulting their tablet, all hazardous environments must have clearly marked escape routes and warning signs. The warning sign is everything trying to kill you, Lucky explained patiently, and the escape route is usually up the nearest tree, unless that tree has fire ants, or a jaguar, or an angry sloth. We were gathered at our base camp on the edge of the river, surrounded by enough camera gear to film a Hollywood blockbuster and enough safety equipment to make NASA jealous. Maya was checking her wildlife tracking devices while I made sure our cameras could handle the humidity. Pix and their team were still trying to come to terms with the fact that we were actually doing this. Perhaps we should establish a minimum safe distance from these creatures, Mira suggested hopefully. Sure, Lucky nodded. It's about 500 miles, but since we're here to film them, we'll have to get a bit closer. How much closer? Close enough to count their scales, Maya said, not looking up from her equipment. Don't worry, I brought anti-venom for most of the dangerous snakes. Most of them, Kex's claws clicked nervously. Well, you can't be prepared for everything, she shrugged. That's what the emergency helicopter is for. Pix, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly spoke up. I notice none of you seem particularly concerned about entering an environment you yourselves describe as extremely dangerous. I finished waterproofing the last camera before answering. Oh, we're terrified. But that's just basic survival instinct. The trick is to be terrified and competent at the same time. That makes no logical sense, Mira protested. Welcome to Earth, Lucky grinned. Now, who's ready to meet some capybaras? The first part of our expedition went surprisingly well. The capybaras were doing their usual thing, lounging around like oversized guinea pigs who'd just discovered the concept of meditation. The alien research team seemed to relax a bit, probably thinking we'd exaggerated the whole everything here is dangerous thing. Then we found the caiman. That, Knox said from behind their force field, is significantly larger than your database indicated. The massive reptile was sunning itself on the bank, looking about as peaceful as a creature with that many teeth can look, which is to say, not very. Don't worry, Lucky assured them. They usually don't bother humans unless you get too close or make sudden movements or breathe too loudly or exist in their general vicinity when they're hungry. You said they usually don't bother humans, Kex noted. What about non-humans? That's an excellent scientific question, Maya said, already setting up her camera. Let's find out. That will not be necessary, all four aliens said in perfect unison. We managed to get some great footage of the caiman, though Knox insisted on documenting its exact bite force and hunting range in their safety log. By the time we moved on to the electric eels, they had filled 3 data tablets with potential hazard warnings. 600 volts, Mira was reviewing the data. That cannot be correct. Want me to demonstrate? Lucky offered cheerfully. I only got zapped once today, I'm due for another. Is he serious? Pix asked me quietly. Hard to tell with Lucky, I admitted. But I wouldn't test it. The real fun started when we reached the poison dart frog territory. Maya was in her element, explaining how something smaller than a cookie could kill 10 grown men. But they're so colorful, Kex protested. On our worlds, bright colors indicate edible fruits. On Earth, Maya said with perhaps too much enthusiasm, bright colors usually mean touch me and die. Your planet is fundamentally broken, Knox declared, adding another page to their hazard log. We were setting up camp for the night when we heard the distinctive sound of something very large moving through the underbrush. Lucky's ever-present smile got a bit wider. Ah, he said. I believe Senhora Anna is saying hello. The aliens huddled together as Maya excitedly pointed out the massive tracks left in the mud. They were fresh. Perhaps Pix suggested, their translator quivering slightly. We should proceed with the documentation from a more remote location. Don't worry, I assured them, checking my cameras. We've got lucky. You keep saying that Mira observed, but given his extensive history of near-death experiences, is he really what humans would consider lucky? Lucky thought about this while treating a fresh leech bite. Well, I'm still alive. That's pretty lucky in the Amazon. As if to emphasize his point, something large crashed through the trees nearby, followed by a sound that you really hope is just your imagination. Was that Kex began? Sinhora ain't a lucky, confirmed happily. She's hunting. Perfect timing. Perfect is not the word I would use, Knox muttered, their force field humming at maximum power. As we prepared to track one of the largest predators in the Amazon, I couldn't help but notice that our alien friends were finally starting to understand why humans tended to build their cities in less exciting locations. But they hadn't seen anything yet. Sinhora Aina was about to give them a demonstration they'd never forget, assuming we survived filming it. Here's the thing about tracking a massive anaconda through the Amazon: it's a lot like playing hide and seek with a living fire hose, except the fire hose weighs as much as a car and thinks you might make a nice lunch. According to my calculations, Mira announced, consulting their tablet while carefully stepping over a fallen log, the statistical probability of our entire group being consumed by this creature is relatively low. That's the spirit, Lucky called back cheerfully. Besides, Sinhora Aina usually prefers larger prey, like that tapir we saw earlier, or small boats, or that one time she tried to eat my kayak. You said she tried to eat your canoe earlier, Pix noted suspiciously. Oh no, that was a different time. Sinhora Aina is very passionate about water sports. Maya was in the lead, following tracks that I honestly couldn't see but she insisted were obvious. The aliens had formed a tight cluster behind Lucky, possibly operating on the theory that he'd used up all his bad luck by now. Knox's force field was humming so loudly it was probably scaring away half the wildlife. The indigenous species of your planet, Kex observed, seem to have an unusually high predatory-to-prey ratio. That's because everything here evolved to either eat something else or avoid being eaten, Maya explained. It's like an evolutionary arms race, except instead of arms, it's mostly teeth and venom and... She stopped suddenly, holding up a hand. We all froze. What is it? Pix whispered. Look at the water. Maya pointed to the river beside us. The surface was perfectly still. Too still. Ah, Lucky's grin got even wider. Sinhora Aina is feeling shy today. That's when we saw a ripple in the water, moving against the current. Something massive was sliding beneath the surface. Current estimates suggest a specimen of approximately 9 meters, Mira reported, their translator quivering slightly. Oh no, Lucky shook his head. Sinhora Aina is much bigger than that. As if on cue, the water exploded. Have you ever seen 30 feet of muscle and scales rise up like a living tower? It's the kind of thing that makes you seriously reconsider your career choices. Sinhora Aina emerged from the river like a special effect from a movie with a much bigger budget than our documentary. Amazing, Maya was already filming. She's even larger than last season. Fascinating. Pix took a step forward, scientific curiosity apparently overwhelming their survival instinct. The musculature suggests. Nobody move, Lucky said, still smiling but with a new edge to his voice. She's hunting. Sinhora Aina swayed slightly, her scales gleaming in the filtered sunlight. All 4 of Pix's eyes were wide with what I hoped was academic interest, and not impending panic. The Coalition's Xenobiology division would benefit greatly from a closer examination, they mused, taking another step forward. That, I said carefully, is a really bad idea. But you know how sometimes you can see a bad decision happening in slow motion? Pix was reaching out, probably to take some kind of scientific reading, when Sinhora Aina decided to demonstrate exactly why humans don't build condos in Anaconda territory. The strike was faster than anything that size had any right to be. One moment Pix was standing there with their scanner, the next, they were wrapped in more snake than I'd ever seen in one place. This, Knox announced with remarkable calm, appears to be a suboptimal situation. Don't worry, Lucky called out. Already moving. This happens all the time. That is not reassuring, Mira shouted back. What followed was probably the most expensive game of tug-of-war ever filmed. Maya was simultaneously trying to help and get everything on camera. Kex was attempting to calculate escape trajectories while Mira frantically consulted their xenobiology database. Knox's force field had expanded to cover about half the riverbank. And Lucky? Lucky was having the time of his life. Sinhora Ana, he called out cheerfully, grabbing one of Pix's flailing limbs. This is not a proper way to greet tourists. We talked about this. The next few minutes were a blur of scales, splashing, and what I'm pretty sure were Galactic Coalition swear words. Somehow, and I'm still not entirely sure how we managed to convince Sinhora Ana that a 7-foot-tall space penguin probably wasn't going to digest well. When it was all over, Pix sat on the riverbank, looking somewhat rumpled but surprisingly intact. Their spacesuit was a lost cause, though. I believe they said slowly, I now understand why humans prefer to build their settlements elsewhere. Are you kidding? Maya was reviewing the footage with almost manic glee. This is amazing data. The way she moved, the constriction force. Perhaps Knox interrupted firmly, we should continue our observations from a more reasonable distance, like orbit. But think of the research possibilities. Mira had already pulled out a fresh tablet. The hunting patterns alone. No, Pix said with surprising firmness. I believe we have sufficient evidence regarding humanity's habitat preferences. Oh, don't be like that. Lucky grinned, wringing out his shirt. Sinhora Ana was just being friendly. You should see her when she's actually hungry. The look Pix gave him suggested that no, they absolutely should not see that. As we packed up our gear and what was left of Pix's spacesuit, I couldn't help but notice our alien friends keeping a much more respectful distance from the water's edge. Sometimes the best way to understand why humans avoid certain areas is to nearly get eaten by what lives there. You know, Lucky said as we headed back to base camp, this wasn't even in my top 5 most exciting tours this month. What was number 1? Kex asked, apparently against their better judgment. Oh, that would be the angry sloth incident. We are not asking about the angry sloth incident, Knox declared firmly. But as we made our way back through the jungle, I could see Pix taking notes. Something told me this wasn't the last we'd hear about humanity's relationship with dangerous wildlife. Though next time, maybe we'd stick to showing them YouTube videos instead. The thing about nearly getting eaten by an anaconda is that it tends to change your perspective. In Pix's case, it changed the perspective of an entire galactic civilization. Our footage went viral across 17 star systems within a week. Turns out there's nothing quite like watching a dignified coalition ambassador playing tug-of-war with 30 feet of angry snake to capture the public imagination. The viewing metrics are unprecedented, Mira reported during our follow-up meeting. We were back in my office, which now featured a new "No Anacondas Allowed" sign that Lucky had given me as a joke. Particularly the slow-motion sequence where Ambassador Pix attempts to scan Sinhora Ana's scales mid-constriction. The Coalition's Xenobiology Department has received over 10,000 research proposals, Kex added, their claws clicking rapidly on their datapad, most of them involving studying Earth's predators from extremely safe distances. My safety report has been downloaded 6 million times, Knox said proudly. They'd expanded their original hazard log into a comprehensive guide titled Why You Should Not Pet That, a Visitor's Guide to Earth's Wildlife. Pix, sporting a new spacesuit that looked suspiciously reinforced, cleared their translator before speaking. The Coalition has officially classified Earth as a Class 5 death world. Is that bad? I asked. On the contrary, they replied. It's made your planet the most popular tourist destination in 3 sectors. Maya, who had been sorting through new footage, looked up. Wait, what? It appears, Mira explained, that many species find the concept of a planet where everything has evolved to be actively dangerous absolutely fascinating. From a safe distance, of course. We've received thousands of requests for guided tours, Kex confirmed, particularly from species that evolved on worlds with no natural predators. They find the concept of survival instinct exotic. The liability waivers alone are longer than most peace treaties, Knox added. Lucky, who had somehow appeared in my office without using the door, a skill he'd probably learned from something trying to eat him, grinned widely. I've already had to hire more guides. Turns out almost getting eaten by an anaconda is considered an extreme sport in some galaxies. The Coalition is particularly interested in understanding how humans became the dominant species on a planet where everything else seems capable of killing you, Pix said. That's easy, Lucky shrugged. We're too stubborn to get eaten. Also, Maya added, we're really good at running away and then coming back with better tools. The footage had other unexpected effects. Suddenly, every alien species with their own dangerous wildlife was admitting that, yeah, maybe they also had some locally administered territories where building settlements wasn't the best idea. The Zentari Confederation just acknowledged that their northern continent is controlled by something they describe as flying acid-spitting deathworms, Mirror reported. The Proxima Coalition finally admitted that their deep seas belong to something they won't even describe, Kex added. They just shudder and change the subject. And the Betelgeusians Nox consulted their tablet. They've officially designated their equatorial regions as that which we do not discuss. See, I said. Humans aren't so weird after all. No, Pix corrected. You're definitely weird. You're just not alone in your weirdness. The really interesting part was how this changed galactic tourism. Suddenly Earth was hosting delegations from across the cosmos, all eager to see our dangerous wildlife from behind very thick safety barriers. The Arcturians want to build an orbital viewing platform, Mira said. Something about wanting to observe Earth's predators without entering the atmosphere. The Sirius Collective is developing specialized documentary drones, Kex added. They're calling it extreme distance nature photography. And the Vegan Alliance Nox checked their notes. They've requested permission to study Earth's venomous species from a research station on Mars. Even Sinhora Anna had become a galactic celebrity. Lucky had to set up a booking system just to handle all the documentary requests. She's very professional about it, he assured us. Only tries to eat the camera drones that get too close. Pix, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke up. The coalition has prepared a new classification for Earth's restricted zones. We're calling them naturally administered sovereign territories. You mean the places where nature has made it very clear who's in charge, Maya asked. Precisely. It appears humans aren't avoiding prime real estate after all. You're just respecting the previous occupants. Previous occupants who can unhinge their jaws to eat things larger than themselves, Lucky added helpfully. Indeed, Pix shifted slightly. The coalition would like to formally apologize for our earlier assumptions about human settlement patterns. No problem, I said. Though if you really want to understand why humans avoid certain areas, I could tell you about the time Lucky met an angry sloth. That will not be necessary, all four aliens said in unison. But as they left my office, I couldn't help noticing Pix making one final note on their tablet. Something told me the galaxy wasn't done learning about Earth's wildlife. Though maybe next time we'd start with something less ambitious. Like showing them why we don't pet bears. The Why Humans Don't Build Their documentary series ended up running for 6 seasons across the galaxy. Turns out, there's an endless appetite for watching various species learn why Earth's danger zones earned their reputation. I was reviewing footage for our latest episode, Why Humans Don't Scuba Dive Alone, a great white shark story, when Pix arrived for our annual review meeting. They were wearing their 3rd-generation protective suit, this one featuring what looked suspiciously like anti-constriction reinforcement. The Coalition's tourism board has some concerns they announced without preamble. About what I asked, though I had a pretty good idea. Last week's episode involving the hippopotamus territorial dispute has sparked a new trend. Apparently, several species are now competing to see who can film Earth's dangerous wildlife from the closest distance without getting eaten. Ah, I said. You mean the Death World Challenge? Precisely. Pix's translator managed to convey both concern and exasperation. We've had to rescue 3 different documentary teams from the Amazon this month alone. One of them tried to interview Sinhora Anna. How'd that go? She ate their hover platform. Lucky, who as usual had materialized from nowhere, laughed. Classic Sinhora Anna, always playing hard to get. Maya joined us, carrying what looked like several hundred pages of research requests. The galactic scientific community wants to know if we can arrange closer observations of something they're calling murder logs. Crocodiles, I translated. And no, we cannot. Tell that to the Andromedans, Pix sighed. They've started a petition to build underwater observation pods in the Nile. The same Andromedans who needed rescue from an angry penguin last month. In their defense, Lucky said, nobody expects penguins to be that aggressive. The galaxy, it seemed, had developed a fascinating relationship with Earth's wildlife. Our Death World status had somehow made us the most popular extreme tourism destination this side of the Crab Nebula. If shops across the cosmos were selling t-shirts with I survived Earth's wildlife in various alien languages. The coalition has officially classified Earth as having charismatically dangerous megafauna, Pix reported. It's our most popular warning category. Better than last year's classification, Maya noted. Everything here can kill you didn't have quite the same marketing appeal. Speaking of marketing, I pulled up our latest viewing figures. The Sinhora Ana fan club now has members in 27 star systems. 28 lucky corrected. The Betelgeusians finally joined after she ate that documentary drone that was playing their national anthem. Pix consulted their tablet. The coalition is particularly interested in your next documentary series, Why Humans Don't Camp in Bear Country. Oh, that's going to be fun, Maya grinned. We've already got 3 teams signed up. Though after the Anaconda incident, they're all insisting on filming from inside reinforced vehicles. Smart of them, Lucky nodded. Bears don't usually eat cars. Usually. As we discussed the upcoming season, a message flashed across my screen. Another alien documentary team had managed to get themselves treed by a cassowary. Apparently nobody had told them that some birds are basically velociraptors with better PR. I'll handle it, Lucky said cheerfully, already heading for the door. This will make a great bonus episode. Pix watched him go, all 4 eyes blinking in sequence. I still don't understand how he survives. None of us do, I admitted. Though he still won't talk about the angry sloth incident. Perhaps some mysteries are better left unsolved, Pix said diplomatically. Though the coalition would like to know, are there any areas of your planet that humans haven't tried to document yet? Maya, Lucky, and I exchanged glances. Well, I said carefully, there's always the deep ocean. Ah yes, Pix consulted their tablet. The part of Earth that even humans avoid. Exactly. Want to know why? I believe, Pix said firmly, that some territories can remain naturally administered without further documentation. As they left, I could hear them adding one final note to their report conclusion: humans don't avoid dangerous areas because they're afraid. They avoid them because they're the only species smart enough to admit when something else got there first. And somewhere in the Amazon, Sinhora Ana was probably planning her next documentary appearance. After all, she had a fan club to entertain. Just as soon as she finished digesting that hover platform,